Are you out of your mind? Maybe you didn't hear me. Maybe you're just joining in. So let me ask you again. Are you out of your mind? Maybe not today. Maybe next week. Maybe you have felt out of your mind before. And by the way, how are things going in your head office? Where is your head office? A lot of us don't even know anymore, right? My name is Krista Scammahorn, and I am a workforce development consultant with Francis Tuttle Technology Center. My sole purpose today for being here is I want to inspire you to get out of your mind. And why is that? I want all of us to fulfill our lifelong goals. And I think we can do that through stress-free productivity. So our heads have evolved to do some very sophisticated things, but not everything. Think about it. You have been asked to bring your grandma's prized apple pie to the family reunion because no one else makes it anymore but you. So you think, okay, this is awesome. I'm so excited to do this. So you think, I'm going to run to the store and get everything. And you don't make a list. You're just in a hurry. So you go and you store and you find the butter and you go and get a Pillsbury dough, for the pie crust because really nobody knows the difference, right? And you get butter and cinnamon and you get home and you get it all out and you're ready to start making this apple pie. Except one thing. What is it that you think you forgot? Because you didn't take a list with you, right? You're trying to remember it in your head office. But you forgot the apples, which is one of the most important things to make apple pie. So I'm here today because I want to inspire you to get out of your heads, get out of your minds. I want you to think about how to get out of your mind, where to park stuff. Your brains do a good job of some things, but our brains are not made to constantly remember, remind, and prioritize and manage relationships on everything that's going on in our busy lives. In fact, in 2015, a big study was done by the University of Missouri, and the University of Missouri decided that they would take a bunch of people and ask them to remember and remind a certain amount of things. So they did this research. So during a regular day, they say that the average human being has anywhere between 30 and 100 items on their mind that they're trying to prioritize, remember, remind. But this is the research found from the University of Missouri. The research found this: 4. The average of things that your mind can remember, remind, and engage in at a time is 4 things. Now that's an average. So it's plus or minus 3. So I always tell people that it's really interesting because I'm that person that's the minus 3, that one thing at a time. I can remember one thing at a time. And so I've always been a list maker. Now you take my spouse, my husband, my lovely husband is on the 7 range. So he can really remember, remind, and engage in about 7 things at a time. So it makes for a very interesting marriage because I have to watch out what I'm going to say, right? Or else he'll say, remember when you said you were going to do X, Y, Z? So I am one of those people that makes a lot of lists. And I want to encourage you today to get out of your mind because otherwise, after the 4th thing, say the 5th, 6th thing, we are led by the latest and the loudest. And I want you to think about this. Our mind is for having ideas and not holding them. So the foundation of what we're doing today is I want to inspire you to get out of your head because our mind is for having ideas and not holding them. We were made fearfully and wonderfully, and our brains are so amazing, but our mind like I'm saying, it needs to be free so that it can hold great conversations, so it can be creative, innovative, collaborative with teams around you. But if we're constantly trying to dredge up the files in our head to go and talk to people about stuff or go and figure out something, then we're not really using our minds in the way that they were designed to be made. So, there's 3 points I'm going to discuss. I'm going to discuss number 1, the book and the training that I believe offers a methodology to create that space in our heads. Okay, so that's the first point. The second point that I'm going to discuss are the skills of this methodology. So it's an acronym called CCORE, and I will describe each one briefly, but that will be the meat and the potatoes of what we talk about today. Then the third point is going to be this. I'm going to demonstrate just how my results of my own life, I will be vulnerable and open up my life to you and talk to you about the practice of stress-free productivity through this methodology and the things that I've been able to attain and then move on from my lifelong goals to create new ones. I'm so excited you're joining me for this time. Again, my name is Krista Scammahorn, and I'm with Frances Tuttle, and we're going to jump right into point number 1. So on to point number 1. And that point is about the book and the training that I've discovered after years of professional work in the workforce that has worked for me. Now, I know that everyone is different, but I do believe that this book and methodology can work for different people because it is so customizable. So let's just go in and show you what I'm talking about. So this is the book. This book is called Getting Things Done, The Art of Stress-Free Productivity. It's by David Allen. Now, this edition is an updated edition that was published in 2015. The first edition came out in 2001. So if you go onto Amazon and you're looking for this book, make sure you get this one. The older version, he will have much darker brown hair. So that's how you could tell the difference. But the updated edition in 2015 came out to accommodate the numerous questions that were asked by David Allen about email, because it has become such an integral part of our working day and our personal lives. So this is the book that I think can help when you need to clear things from your mind in order to get things done so that you can accomplish those lifelong goals. So let me tell you a little bit about this book. I am what is called a GTD, Getting Things Done, practitioner. There are many of us around the globe. It's actually a global sensation. So my personal story about this is this. I was a new manager for a national laboratory when I was 34 years old. And I thought that I was really ready. At that point, I was married, and I was married to a school teacher and a coach. And if any of you are married to someone like that or have been in a family with someone who has been a coach and an educator, they're not around a lot. And we had 2 children. So, and when I was 34, I had 2 boys, and they both were in ball, they had school, we had church, we had a lot of things going on. And I had 13 salespeople, employees of mine in the whole state of Oklahoma. And of course, any of you who have ever been a salesperson or know salespeople, it's like herding cats. And so my whole life, I've been an overachiever. And as I've shared, I'm a big list maker because I can't remember a lot up in my mind. So I was an overachiever, and I got the role of a sales manager, and I felt like I was drowning. And honestly, I was young, and I didn't realize that I really needed to ask for help. So the first time in my life that I really felt like a loser, and I didn't know how I was going to juggle it all. So I asked another district sales manager who was a little older than me to mentor me, and she's the one that told me about Getting Things Done. Now, I still have the original Getting Things Done edition that I bought back then in 2004, 2005. It is dog-eared, it's highlighted. I have a lot of different flags on the side, just showing that I really used that. Now, I never lie in any of my trainings about getting things done. I'm going to be really honest. It's not an easy read. It's not something you sit down on a Sunday and you finish in an hour. It's something that you have to read a chapter or even just read a couple paragraphs and really ponder about being honest with yourself and how you are going around life to getting the things done and accomplishing your true goals that are inside. Now, I didn't change overnight. It was very difficult. But you fast forward to 2017 when I saw that David Allen had teamed up with a company called Vital Smarts to offer certification and teaching of getting things done in the business sector with curriculum. And I was so excited to get to go to Utah and be one of the first groups that was certified in it. And I just really believe in it. So now to summarize the first point, getting things done is not about getting more things done. We don't have any more time in our day, right? It's about getting more of the right things done. So that's point number one. Let's jump to point number two. I want to tell you about the methodology that goes along with the GTD training. It's called CCORE. That's the acronym. And we know at Career Tech, we are good at acronyms, right? So most of us feel in our work lives and our personal lives that we're buried and overwhelmed by all the stuff that owns a piece of us. We need to learn how to collect what has our attention and use that in another way than putting it up in our brain. So this is where we start talking about the first one in CCORE, the first initial, and this first initial is for, the first C stands for capture. Capture is all about collecting what has your attention. So at this point, this is what we're going to do. Because we're not live and I'm recording this, I want to tell you that I am going to be on this broadcast of this session in the chat area. So we're going to do a little activity. Usually I have people stand up in an audience or in a classroom and pair up. And we ask each other this question. So I want you to think about this right now. What is something that you've really wanted or intended to get done, but you have not? And then how long has that one thing been on your mind? So right now in the chat section, think about it. Probably it's the first thing that popped up in your head. So there's lots of different things that I hear in my dozens of classes that I've held on getting things done. Let me help you out. The most popular ones are this. For females, I've seen a trend of cleaning their closet. It's usually something around cleaning a closet or going through a box of stuff that either is emotional baggage. So I'm from Moore, Oklahoma originally. And if you've heard of Moore, you've probably heard that they're just known for tornadoes. So I have many friends who have boxes up in the top of the closet and an extra room in the attic that they just haven't pulled out and gone through, but it's still sitting there in the back of their mind, on the top of their shoulders. It's just that monkey on their back, and it's really emotional to go through that. So I have a lot of people talking about that, especially females. It's all about closets. Any of you females with me, we tend to collect things, purses, shoes, dresses, things like that, knickknacks. Now, males, the thing I tend to hear the trend from males is to clean out their garage, clean out their workshops, clean their boats, their toys, things like that. That tends to be what it is. Things that we really want to do, but we just don't make the time for it, or we say we don't have the time for it. Those are typically what people pick when we go through these things. Now, we'll tell you real quickly, there was one story that I'll never forget, and there was a young lady who was in one of my trainings who was very emotional when we went through this exercise, and she asked if she could share her story because she really wanted to get through to people. She was 36 years old, and she told me that when she was 30, one of her best friends bought her a brand new guitar, and it was a special guitar because she'd always wanted to learn to play the guitar because she was a singer. And she was very tearful and emotional because she was now 36, and that guitar, she had lost her friend to death, and the guitar was sitting there with dust on it in her office. And she was sitting there, she did not realize it had been 6 years since she had been given that wonderful gift and intended to learn that guitar. But we have so many things going on in here that we don't make the space to do those things that we really deep down have always wanted to do. So right now, just put in the chat box, and then we will discuss that at the end of this training. So you thought of one thing, but it is likely that you might have hundreds of things on your mind that you really want to get done, right? So each one of these owns a piece of you. Think of it that way. So I love this illustration, and I keep it, even when I do change my PowerPoints, I keep it every time in different formats sometimes. But I love the illustration to bring home that everything that we're trying to keep up here is taking up real estate in our mind. So think about that. So we need to find somewhere to park it, right? So in summary, I want you to think about this. Capture in the C-Core methodology means to get everything. So to get everything when you're stressed out, just get everything out. The summary of this section is to tell you this. Get those small things captured so that you can free up the space to really think about the big things, playing guitar, cleaning out your attic, going through that emotional baggage that you need to clean out so that you are freed and that weight is off of your shoulder. But you need to regain the peace of mind by capturing those pieces of your mind. So let's move on to point number 2, or the second initial in C-Core, which is clarify. And clarify is this: processing what it means. Because the problem is this: things rarely get stuck because of a lack of time. We always like to say, if I had the time, I would ... right? But it's usually because we haven't decided what that thing means to us. So no app, no to-do list is going to tell you what your stuff means to you. It's a skill and it's a behavior to learn to clarify your things. So this is how you do it. Every single thing that you have captured in your few chosen inboxes, you just ask yourself, is this actionable? And if it's not actionable, then you can decide, okay, I need to trash it. I need to incubate it and think about it a little bit longer. I can file it away for later if it's just an FYI on something. Maybe somebody sends you an email of the latest dress code policy. And if it is yes, then let's just talk about doing the very next action required. So what is the next action? Well, we're talking about today to get those things out of your mind, those small things, so that you can get to the real things in life that you're supposed to accomplish. We need to make sure that we figure out way to capture it first, and then clarify what's the very next action for this to-do item so that we can put it in a next actions list. find some kind of way to get it out of here into an actual list. That could be an app, that could be a pad of paper, that could actually be a day timer, right? So lots of people use day timers. David Allen has used a pad of paper and a pencil for over 30 years. That's his way. So you can high tech, low tech, no tech at all, just somewhere that you can have a trusty system, an external hard drive of your to-dos. This is the exercise that I work with when I have my training sessions called Mind Sweep. And some of my customers, I love to hear from them later when the organizations say, we do this every Friday, or my group gets together monthly and we just do this mind sweep exercise. We take 10 minutes and we do this and we get things out of our heads so that we can be more purposeful in our time together to work together, be creative and collaborative. So this is what Mind Sweep is. You can have some little cards that comes together with the training, but also sometimes I use index cards. I can use Post-its. And when I feel like the weight of the world's on me, I know that I'm not using my trusty system to get things out of here. So what I do is take 10 minutes and I will get out some index cards or some Post-its and I start just writing down, capturing everything in my mind. I get stuff at home, church, my nonprofit boards, things at work, things with my friends, things with my neighborhood association. Start doing the any coulda, shoulda, wouldas, get them all out. But each item has one card, has one Post-it, so that you can get it all out. We do this on an exercise in the half-day training, so it's really interesting to see. Some people might have 20 things on their mind, and I've had people have 55 things that they can bring up in less than 10 minutes. So it just shows you that we have a lot of things going on up here. So I want you to think about the next action. So if you have written down things like meeting, car, things that are very general, our brains have to go through fatigue of trying to figure out what you meant by that. So let's be specific, and that's all about clarifying. So if you turn something from car into call Pete's Garage for pricing on brakes, that will help your brain go to the next action and get it done. Our brains are wired for two things specifically: connection with others and action. We like to go, right? So if it takes a while to figure out on our list what we meant by car or mom, we might not do it. We're going to skip over it because our brains want to work. We want to do something. We have action bias most of the time. So think about this the next time you look at your list and it says proposal. And even if it says proposal for XYZ zipper company, what does that mean? What do you need for the proposal? Be more specific with things. And even on the car, on my next action list, if I didn't have Pete's Garage phone number on my list or in my phone, I would even go so far as to put that phone number there or email address if something was to be communicated by email. In summary, for Clarify, Clarify means taking that stuff and engaging with it more productively. I also have laminated getting things done workflow maps. So if you'd be interested, on the last slide of my presentation, we'll have ways to connect with me. Please reach out by text, phoning me, you can connect by email or LinkedIn. I love to share those things to help everyone. So that is Clarify. So let's move on. That's the 2 C's. The first one was we go and we collect everything, right? Capture everything. Number 2 is to clarify. When we capture an item, what does it really mean? What's the next physical, visible action that we could do to move that thing forward? The third one, and the O in C-Core, stands for organize. And that means putting that where it belongs. Let me go a little deeper on that. The problem is we rely too heavily on our minds to remember and remind us. We have to learn to park our stuff somewhere. So making us do it is easier for our brains. So to create space in our head, we need to create that external brain. Use our brains, our God-given brains, for what they're made for. Be creative and desire to get to our lifelong goals. So most of us, we have about 30 to 100 items per day that we're thinking of all the time, going through here, and we're parking it up here and using up our real estate in our brain. How this program differs from all other time management, prioritization, things that you have taken in the past and I've taken over my last 25 years in the workforce, is that David Allen says to park things by context. And this is what context means. This is taking those items that are actionable and placing them in a list of where you need to be to make that work happen. When I say work, that could be personal things too. Going to the cleaners, going to the shoe store, things like that. Here are the most common context lists that people use. So here's the most common 5: at home, at work, errands. So maybe if you're out in your car and you had some extra time, you could think, oh, what errands do I have on my list that I can run because I just dropped off Bobby at soccer practice and I'm going to have 2 hours. So maybe there's some things around here I could get done, right? At your phone, a lot of things can be done on our mini computers on our phones these days, or just anywhere. So where work happens, that just means where do you need to be to do the action on your next actions list? So that means context, where you need to be, and you have to think about what resources are you going to need to get this done, okay? So let me tell you my story about one thing that holds me up. So as you go through and you practice getting things done and you're a GTD practitioner, I go through and look at it every week, right? Look at my list, see how I'm doing. Well, after 4 weeks of looking at my next actions list and finding something that said something like, well, this is exactly what it said. Take shoes to shoe fixer guy. Yes, I am so clinical in my wording, right? But I kept thinking, why am I not getting this done? Why has this been on here for 4 weeks? It was all about context. I needed to place that action in the place where I need to move back and put my next action to that. My first action would be to figure out what shoes I was talking about. So I moved that action to find shoes that need to be fixed. So then I knew every day when I pull up my next actions list while I'm having my coffee in the morning, I knew I need to go into my closet and find the shoes that I was talking about that needed to be fixed. After that, I placed those shoes by the back door, which I go out to the garage to get in my car every day because I need to have those in my car. And then I placed it on my at work list, which the shoe fixer guy or shoe shop is next door at that time to where I was working. So I needed to have that on my work list because that is where I needed to be in order to take those shoes. So I will show you some examples of things of my action lists. Here's Krista's next action list. It's not fancy. I'm definitely a spreadsheet Excel girl. And so I thought, I want to make my next actions list, as David Allen says, easy, accessible, and readily available. So I do my best thinking when I'm grocery shopping for some reason. And so I always have my phone in my hand. And I thought, well, I want a spreadsheet because that's how I think. I think in lists. So I'm showing you right here my Google Drive. And I have a next actions list on my Google Drive as a doc. Then once I press on it, this is what I see. And I really want you to pay attention to the arrows at the bottom because that is showing my context. It's showing when I worked at Moore Norman Technology Center, that was one of my lists that I pulled up on a daily basis. But my tabs at the bottom are my context, right? This is not a pretty list, but it is what I desire to look at, I think, in spreadsheet forms. I have a friend that has a pink and sparkly day timer, and that's what she desires, and she gets a lot of satisfaction from opening every day, looking at her day, and seeing what things actions she can really accomplish. That's what she uses. Some people use a pad of paper and a pencil, and a lot of people use apps. There are dozens of free apps on our smartphones now or on your device. So whatever it is that you use, high tech, low tech, or no tech at all, this is how easy it could be. But you see how, get it out of here, get pieces out of here, and put them on an external brain. So that was about organize, and it's about organizing your actions in a personalized system. Everyone's different. When people want me to come and help them, everyone's different. So I just believe that you need to personalize it to how you work. And that's so you can park it so you'll have it when you need it. Now, the last two for C-Core are pretty simple and comprehensive. It's reflect and engage. But you need to reflect and review frequently. With our brains buzzing around like the internet superhighway, the problem is our external brain is not going to make the tough trade-off decisions for you, nor is it going to prioritize your actions, right? Only you could do that. So GTD practitioners, we start looking at our day at our calendar first, and then we look at our next actions list and see what can we really get done today. And that's when you have to have the talk with yourself to prioritize. So don't let dinging email notifications get you wrapped up. Maybe schedule times in your day so that you can view your emails. I schedule mine at lunch and at the end of the day so that I can really be creative and get my true work done during the day. And I bring up my email at lunch and the end of the day. So remember to pause regularly to review and reflect on why have you not got your things done. If you've intended to, what's holding you back? Usually it's because you have not clarified the next visible action to move it forward. When I told you about taking the shoes to the shoe fixer guy, it's because I did not make it clear on what, and my brain just had decision fatigue. It kept looking at it over and over and moving on to the next thing because it really didn't know what it was supposed to do next. So also engage, simply do. David Allen, if you get nothing out of this today, I will tell you this one thing that everyone usually remembers. It's the 2-minute rule. 2 minutes is an efficiency threshold. If you find something comes to your attention, or if you've been asked to do something that will take 2 minutes or less, it's best to do it right that moment than to shuffle it to a list, put it on an email, write it down, because 2 minutes is an efficiency threshold. It would take you longer to put it somewhere and reread it again. So pause regularly to align your decisions with your priorities so that you get the right things done given the context. This will allow you to have no regrets about your choices.
We're going to start discussing men's brains, women's brains, and how they're very different from each other. Now, I want to start with men's brains. All right? Now, men's brains are very unique. Men's brains are made up of little boxes. And we have a box for everything. We've got a box for the car. We got a box for the money. We got a box for the job. We got a box for you. We got a box for the kids. We got a box for your mother somewhere in the basement. We got boxes everywhere. And the rule is the boxes don't touch. When a man discusses a particular subject, we go to that particular box, we pull that box out, we open the box, We discuss only what is in that box. All right? And then we close the box and put it away, being very, very careful not to touch any other boxes. Now, women's brains are very, very different from men's brains. Women's brains are made up of a big ball of wire. And everything is connected to everything. The money's connected to the car, and the car's connected to your job, and your kids are connected to your mother, and everything's connected to everything. And it's like... It's like the internet superhighway. Okay?
So that was the second point, which was we just went over the methodology of C-Core. Capture, clarify, organize, then reflect and engage. Let's move on to point number 3. So now we are on to the last point of the day, point 3. And I'm going to share with you some results that I have had from using the practice of getting things done methodology. The problem is that many of us have given up on our dreams and our lifelong goals, and we don't even realize that we've given up. To tell you a little bit more about my personal story, I talk about being a mother of 2, and then later on in life, I met my wonderful husband now, and he has 3 boys and I have 2 boys. So we have a combined family. We've got very busy with 5 boys, and you can imagine if every one of them played sports, different sports. So of course it took all year round to go to the different ball games and practices, fundraisers, things like that. We were also very involved in our church and our community. So I will never forget a turning point in my marriage and in my life, actually, when I came home one night very tired because I'm an overachiever and a recovering workaholic. And I come home and to my husband, who is so ready to see me after his long day, and he wants to talk to me, and I just tell him I'm really too tired. And he finally opened up to me that he felt like I was giving him the crumbs of me, meaning I gave everybody else the majority of myself and my time and my attention, and I came home and I gave him my crumbs. And that was a turning point to myself. It was an aha moment to think about, wow, that is a recipe for disaster. I thought I was saving the world and my community and my work life and my colleagues, but the best thing in my life, I was neglecting him. So it really made me start thinking again to start practicing more of my getting things done and what I practice and preaching it out to everyone else. I want my life to reflect that I was courageous enough to go after those things that I've always wanted to do in those lifelong goals. But the only way I can get to them in this busy society was to get those pieces out and those little to-dos off of this wonderful brain so that I can use it to be more creative and collaborative and present. So I developed my external brain. I showed you my next actions list so I could store those numerous items. I have a tab for the different books that I'm writing. I have a tab even for television shows, right? So we're in the pandemic and everyone's talking about different Netflix shows and stuff like that. I have tabs for all kinds of things. Those are my contexts, right? But I also want to tell you that I started to concentrate on my dreams. Like have a come to Jesus with myself of, Krista, what is it you really want to do with your life? So I want to show you some results that I found by using this methodology. So here we are. getting things done. And I'll tell you about this. So we have our 5 boys, right? And they started moving out. They started finding mates, getting married, procreating, and it had been years and we have not had a family vacation. So finally, once we could start living purposefully and getting the small things out, we could start thinking about planning a vacation together. And so in October of 2018, we got to take our family to Costa Rica. And it had been a lifelong dream of ours to go there. And I highly recommend it. It was wonderful. But that wouldn't have happened had I just stayed in the busyness, because we kept saying for years that we were going to take a family vacation and nothing ever happened. And you turn around and your kids are grown and then they're getting married and having kids. So it's very important that we can take that time to spend with our family, right? Another thing was our boys started moving out. They got older. They started having lives of their own. So we have a big house that we had to clean 3 bathrooms and clean everything. We had to mow a yard lawn. We had landscaping and berms. We had a swimming pool. Anybody who has that knows it's time and it's money. So we finally decided we would take the time and do what was right for our family and finances, and we would downsize and build the dream home the way we wanted it, to use the space wisely. And we wouldn't have been able to do that had we not just taken the time to really focus on that dream. And lastly, when you get those small things out of your head, if you're a workaholic like me, you can put that stuff away on a trusted external brain, then you can spend more time with your family. And this is a picture of our lovely 4 grandchildren who we love dearly. But this really makes you more present with your family when you get those things out. And lastly, I'd always wanted to write a book, and I really never verbalized it, though I had been writing 4 different ones in my laptop for years. So I finally, in 2018, exactly 2 years ago, published my first book, and it's actually available on Amazon. You don't have to buy it, but it was a personal thing that I got to have done that I didn't know if I would ever have done. So I want to conclude with this. If you are like me, and I think everyone is, there are ways that we can achieve stress-free productivity and realize those goals. But we have to find a system to clear our minds. And if you don't have one, I recommend GTD, Getting Things Done by David Allen. You can just go with the methodology, or you could read the whole book and mark it up like I've done mine. But my second point that I went over today was the methodology called C-Core. So remember those skills. And if you would like a handout on that, I would love to give you one. So you can reach out to me. I'm going to show you my slide here in a minute of ways that you can contact me. If I can achieve some of my biggest goals, my third point was my results. If I can do it, anyone can do it. So I want to restate my purpose here, that I was here to inspire you to be bold and confident, to get those little things out of your head so that you too can achieve your lifelong goals. And once you achieve those, then you can go and you can come up with some new ones. There's always new ones to achieve, right? Remember, what I'm talking about is simply not about getting more things done, but to do more of the things that you really want. Us Americans, what do? We consider it a badge of honor to be so busy, right, that we hold up our badges of busyness, but in the shadows are all of our family and our dreams. So don't let that happen to you. Busyness is not a goal. Stress-free productivity means being more present with your family, with your community, with your colleagues and your organization. It means having space and time to be creative. It means pursuing new dreams and aspirations. So just busy is not a goal, but let's be productive and fulfill your deeper desires and purpose. Thank you so much. I'm going to share my screen right now that has my ways that you can connect with me. Please connect with me at any time in any way. Here's a way to LinkedIn. You can also email me. Here's my personal cell phone number that you may call or text me at any time. Thank you.